As I said, guys, we're just gonna go through. I want to keep the answers. Okay. Yeah. So I want to keep the answers as brief as possible, so we can get to all the questions, and I want to get to more substantive discussions. Sometimes these questions will generally create those anyway. But let's just try and do a lightning round here, so we can get to the substantive discussions in the 45 minutes that follow. So for pick and write, someone wanted to know what the use case of your token is, and will you offer certain benefits if subscription plan is paid?
We're developing we haven't came that far with the token. I'm not sure if Jim has any direct answer. Is he here? No, he's muted.
No, I think he went to, maybe he head out.
But yeah, we will.
I think Jim's still here.
Jim's here, but his microphone's muted and he doesn't have his webcam on.
He's gone. Let's come back then, Matt. Let's move on to some of the other guys. Maybe we should just like kind of stream from one project to the next.
Okay, yeah. Is Nit Finance here? Because I think they might have left too. All right, then we'll move on to Mark from XBTC. Can you briefly explain about your rebase mechanism?
Yeah, it's basically every single wallet on the Ethereum blockchain runs a get balance function where they get their balance from the central contract. And so our central contract changes the global supply of everyone's wallet at the same time. So your percentage of market cap remains the same. And so as people use XBTC to trade Bitcoin dominance on the open market, hypothetically, as you do that, as more people are trading it, the market cap goes up. So if you just hold your tokens, your percentage of the market cap stays the same, and then will grow or go down depending on where the market cap goes. So you don't actually lose a percentage of the market cap, but you have less tokens in your wallet. But they aren't actually, there's no gas fee there. It's all automatic and is mostly a UI interface, but it actually does happen on the global open market.
Awesome. And then you guys are on Ethereum, but do you have plans on branching over to other chains?
Yeah, definitely. We have been looking into it and considering. I think we would need to grow a little bit to make it viable and interesting. But we've seen other rebasing tokens starting to open up and go into other blockchains. Nobody's done it completely yet. There's definitely a technological gap there of how your rebasings happen across the different blockchains. And so it's definitely in the works. And we've been talking to some other chains, but the actual mechanics of how it works is still technically difficult, and we're still trying to figure it and flatten those out, but it is possible, and it's definitely something that we're looking at long term.
Gotcha. Where are you guys currently listed? Just Uniswap or?
Yeah, currently just Uniswap. That is also a technical hurdle. A exchange needs to integrate the technology for rebasing, like for the open order books. When the rebase happens, those order books would all be destroyed as the token supply and prices change through the rebase. And so it's a question of, centralized exchanges are kind of going by the wayside. Even Ampleforth, 75% of their volume at times is done on Uniswap. And Uniswap has done more volume than Coinbase in a single day. And so we don't see that as a limiting factor currently, but we're connecting with centralized exchanges and finding the right one that would be worth the time and investment and setting up the technology and all that to get listed there.
Awesome. The social media community wanted you to just explain a brief description of how your geyser works.
The geyser, yeah. So our geyser is called the mint, and basically you put in, and the longer you hold in the mint, you get free XBTC airdrop to your address. Once you withdraw, you get that extra XBTC, like a staking reward, and that's because collateralization across the liquidity pools is important for XBTC because it actually creates a semi-collateralization, just like real-world derivatives are only semi-collateralized, and so we want to incentivize people adding more to liquidity pool so that XBTC becomes even more collateralized. So it is good for the entire ecosystem of XBTC, but you as a liquidity provider put your liquidity tokens into the mint, and then you get airdropped or you get free XBTC when you withdraw those liquidity tokens, or you can just withdraw the reward and keep your liquidity tokens in their staking. And the longer you hold, the higher your APY on that.
Awesome. And last question for XBTC. I'll rephrase it a little bit because I know the product a little bit more. Someone was basically asking, what happens during a rebase when it decreases or increases. So could you just give me just a small description of your dampers?
Yeah, so let's say the price of XBTC is 40 cents, but Bitcoin dominance is at 60%. We would take supply out of the entire market. So if you have 100 XBTC, it might go down to 95 XBTC, but everybody's XBTC goes down, which basic economics pushes the price up. So the price goes from 40 cents to 42 cents. So you have less XBTC, but at a higher price, so that the open market price stays at Bitcoin dominant. So it keeps pushing it up to that 62% so that it's equal to XBTC or to Bitcoin dominance, and vice versa. If the open market price is $2 for XBTC and the Bitcoin dominance is 60 cents, then it would be a large positive rebase, and you would see, your 100 tokens go up to 120 tokens. And then the price would get pushed down, getting down to that 60 cents.
Awesome. And it looks like we have Jim from Pick 'em Right back with us. Is that correct, Jim? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry I'm being late for a couple of minutes, but I'm
No
on.
worries. No worries. It looks late where you're at as well. I'm just going to reiterate, we're going through a lightning round. So if we could just keep your answers brief so we can get questions to all the panelists, and then we can get to the panel section as well so we can have some more robust discussion. The first question someone asked for Pick 'em Right, why will people connect with MetaMask with your product from a security concerns perspective? That seems very general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip that question because it's outside the bounds of conversation, I think. Can you go over your roadmap for a token launch?
Yeah, what I can say about the token, and it's actually I got a bunch of questions via LinkedIn about it just now as well, and we have discussed it. How to issue our token, and if we should go with a security token or not, for example, and had a lot of discussions on that. But actually, we haven't decided yet how to go. So when this accelerator program showed up, I know it's a part of that program. So and I'm actually glad we haven't issued any token yet, and we have to wait until it's so we do it in the right way and everything. So.
Gotcha. So you guys are still in the ideation phase, and you're looking for an incubator such as TDeFi to kind of come in and help flush out the nuances of that, and that's totally understandable. I think a lot of people out there don't really understand how the incubation and advisory process works. I know everyone here can attest to that for sure. Let's move on to the next question. How do you plan to catch the market share from established platforms such as 3 Commas and Shrimpy?
Sorry, what? Can you say that again?
Yeah. How do you plan to? I guess I'll simplify the question. How do you plan to catch the market share in terms of other trading platforms?
Okay. Well, I can say that when we have tested, I don't know how many, but it's about 15 other automatic trading tools, and I don't want to point out anything, on one direction, but what I can say that is, in general, they promise more than they can deliver, and when it comes to this artificial intelligence, they say they have artificial intelligence in their product, but in reality, it's rare. So I think and believe that our algorithm itself and the result is going to show, going to stand for itself, and I don't think it's going to be a big issue to get actually the users to the tool, and also we are having our connection with decentralized exchanges, and we go that way instead of connecting with Binance, for example, and so on. So that is how we stand out a little bit from other competitors.
Does your trading tool have? This is a personal question. Does your trading tool have on-chain functionality, or is it strictly for centralized exchanges?
Actually, it's for decentralized exchanges, but we have discussed to also to offer it to centralized exchanges as well, just because the main part are there now. But we're going to focus on DeFi because we're going to think it's going to expand over time, and it does for now for sure. So we're going to go the DeFi way primary.
Okay, where are you guys in progress of development right now?
Well, we have conceptualized the product, and we know what we want to do in order to build our MVP. So we have had a lot of discussions in internal our team. So it's on we are ready to build because we have all parts there right now. So we are ready to build our MVP and looking for funding actually for that. Right now, so conceptually, we are ready.
Okay, and then final question: could you maybe give me an explanation on what your token is specifically used for within the product?
Yeah, it's twice-fold, I think, and as we have discussed internally in the project, it's both for a chance to raise funds instead of giving out shares. That is very common, at least in Sweden, when you're going to raise funds or crowdfunding. So that's one reason to give out tokens so you can trade with it. But another one is also that you're going to pay with our token on our platform to use our services. So it's
awesome.
Mm.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate those answers. Is AME Pay or Nit Finance still with us?
Hi, Himati. How?
Hi, how are you? You're
yeah,
from
doing
AME?
good, doing good. Right,
are you
right,
AME
right.
Pay? Okay.
Yes, I'm the co-founder.
Okay, awesome. Do you have a webcam or no?
Sure. Just one.
Yeah, please turn that on. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so just to catch you up to speed, we're doing a lightning round. I want to give everyone the opportunity to answer their questions and get to the panel. So please keep your answers brief.
Sure.
Which cryptocurrencies will you be allowed to transact with?
Which cryptocurrency in which network? In our network?
Yeah. Yes.
We have only our own cryptocurrency AME token, which allows in our network right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your transaction cost per second, if that's relevant?
I mean, transaction cost per transaction, right?
Yeah.
0.1 AME. 0.1 AME.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I have fiat, how can I pay with your app?
No, like you can have AME in your wallet in the app of us, and you can start doing the transaction, and the fees will be 0.1 AME for each and every transaction.
Okay. What's the utility for your token?
I'm sorry?
What's the utility for your token?
Selling the token?
No, what is your token used for?
Token can be used in all the retail outlets and the e-commerce websites in the retail industry for day-to-day transaction, daily transactions.
Got it. Why can't I use something like Ethereum? Why do I need to use you?
Not even like Ethereum. It has a huge utility. It can be used in the main restaurants and retail outlets where our cloud POS is there on these outlets.
Gotcha.
And even
so
with the other POS also, it can be used.
So your use case is that you have an already existing mercantile collective.
Yes.
Okay. How many stores, and can you name any relevant brands?
5,000 stores, 5,000 merchants altogether. We have a strong market in Malaysia, KL, all the major restaurants like NC Curry House, Peleta, all this restaurant, we are the major partners with them. 5,000 plus merchants.
Would you say that you're very similar to PundiX? Because that sounds like the
not
direction
exactly,
that they took.
Not exactly. PundiX actually accepts multi-currency, cryptocurrencies in there as a payments gateway kind of stuff. But we actually, it's something different. We have our own cloud POS software, which has been installed in this merchants, or some other POS also can accept our payment system. We are a unit payment system. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. We definitely need payment systems. That's for sure. Your platform is on ETH, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a relevant question. So if you're a payment system, how do you plan on handling scalability? right now you're in ERC20.
Yes, we are ERC20, and we are launching our own blockchain by 3rd week of December. So we'll be swapping the tokens into our own native coins.
Okay, is that a centralized blockchain?
Exactly, centralized blockchain.
Okay, got it. So you're basically just giving an option for like just people who want to use crypto, but you don't really care about decentralization.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any option for earning passive income through the app?
Yes, we have a staking option. We are planning. We have already announced in our network community 30% APR for staking.
Okay. And just briefly, how do you plan on expanding your community from a marketing perspective?
Okay, we already have 30,000 plus community members, and we have around 40,000 plus users for our AME Pay app currently. And moving forward, like we will be having partnerships with the payment gateways around the world, and we will associate with them to explore our business opportunity and establish our business over there with the partners of them. And moving forward around the time, like we have more merchants on our payment system, and there will be millions of transactions gonna get transacted in our payment system. So we'll have a huge community and users over a period of time once we start integrating and implementing our POS from Jan 2021.
Awesome. All right. Well, really appreciate you having you on. Look forward to contributing to the panel discussion. We're going to move over. I don't think Nit Finance is with us anymore, so we're going to move over to Dylan from Kylin. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yep, I'm here. And
Awesome.
I very much, I appreciate the intro. It's very memorable.
It is rhymes. Very memorable, yeah.
Never gets old.
Let's get into the questions here. What kind of
I'll
analytics?
try my best.
And by the way, all these, just for reference, all these questions are from YouTube and Twitter, so we really appreciate you guys following. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button and follow on Twitter so you can get updates for future events for session 2 and for the final demo day tomorrow, where we'll be having some amazing projects such as Sora and PokeSwap, two XBTC, or two, I almost said XBTC, Mark, two projects from the TDeFi incubation, and I think there's one other, if I'm not looking at the list specifically. It'll be DFIN, PokeSwap, CashFi, and HXRO, which I'm very excited to have on board. That's a $50 million market cap coin with FTX integration, and they're doing amazing work in terms of vanilla options. All right, moving over to Kylin Network. What kind of analytics tools will be available for users?
Yeah, so I think a really quick answer to that is all the analytics tools that you would expect. So BI tools, machine learning, et cetera. Any external analytics tools can hook into the system. So and that would be through a query engine and a RESTful API. So that's my quick answer.
Awesome. Do you consider yourself to be an aggregator platform?
Aggregator meaning? I mean, I know what aggregation means, but I just want to.
Yeah, I think most people.
Do you think and you're not the person who asked the question, so.
I think I'm the person that I can answer it though. Your question.
Okay, fair.
So, I mean, typically aggregation tools are people like 1inch. There's a big push for cross-chain aggregation right now, whether that means just being able to facilitate liquidity being transferred between chains, or whether that means just aggregation of price between perhaps an asset that's being traded on the Polkadot chain and Ethereum, etc. So I will take it that direction. Do you consider yourself to be an aggregator tool of either data or price or anything that may be relevant in terms of transferring between parties?
Understood.
Lowering that friction.
Yeah, I would say we're absolutely squarely within that conceptual framework of being an aggregator, right? Because we have the ability, our infrastructure allows the ability for developers to be able to aggregate multiple price feeds that are validated, right? So they can hook into the system and start, almost like a one-stop shop of like, hey, I'm a dApp developer and I need access to, for example, I'm deciding that I'm going to provide election, and sorry, I'll try to keep this short. I'm deciding I'll try to provide, a further validation of election results to like central news sources like Fox News or CNN, right? And that, and if they can rely on that and say, oh, well, we have this, we have election results.io that, and they use the blockchain to validate their results, and Kylin is the infrastructure underpinning that, that's very valuable data, right? So that's aggregation of data as well. So they could hook into thousands of local election result websites, APIs, et cetera, and then they provide this premium data feed to a data consumer like, say CNN or Fox News is a further validation of an election result. So that is absolutely squarely within the purview of our solution.
Got it.
Aggregation of data.
How can Kylin help the end user?
Well, if the end user is, a DeFi application, for example, I think validate it. So everything kind of flows from, the asset price, right? So, I mean, if the end user is a DeFi application, we all need to hook into that information. To the extent that that information is valid, then we can be that's all the better. So that's indeed why there's a use case for Oracle's price feeds on chain right now, whether we're talking about Chainlink, whether we're talking about Teller, Dia, Band, et cetera, et cetera. So if that is the end user we're talking about, then that's one example. But if we also envisage an end user being a data feeder, right? Because you can stand to gain by feeding data as well. So that's also an end user, and you stand to gain from the standpoint of staking KYL, providing premium data feeds that other people are consuming, and vice versa.
So if I contribute data, there's a reward functionality based into your use case?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You can put a paywall API, right, on access to that data through our infrastructure.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually going to ask that because of the follow-up question here. What kind of data can be bought through your marketplace?
Oh man, well, right now, frankly, nothing, because we're still building, everyone. But the kind of data eventually that can be bought through our marketplace is really, I think, would affect on all of the sort of like use cases that we would be familiar with in terms of data economies and data marketplaces. So that would include things that are, outside of blockchain as well. So, we're looking at things like stocks, insurance, navigation, flight information, weather, et cetera, et cetera. In addition, obviously, to what we consider to be a bit of the low-hanging fruit with, price feeding and DeFi applications.
Awesome. What's the progress of your development right now?
So our development is definitely out of the earnest phase. We recently were awarded a grant by Web3. We've been working very closely with Polkadot, and there's a little bit of a symbiotic relationship where they definitely need a data infrastructure, a validated data infrastructure for Polkadot. We definitely need Polkadot, as a broader infrastructure to build on. We are going to be releasing POC testnet in the next 3 to 5 weeks. I want to give us a little bit of, obviously, development's always a moving target. So we'll release that. Our GitHub's public, and and strategically, sorry, I'm not keeping this short. Strategically, we'll be releasing a bit of a basic price feed package for various DeFi applications to utilize for free through any DeFi partners that we're partnering up with. So that's our plan, to provide a basic DeFi package that powers price feed and Oracle data, validated price feed and Oracle data for free, basically.
Gotcha. Okay, so I guess that someone asked how you handle the data from other blockchains. I guess that kind of answers that question.
Kind of, yeah. Like,
add some additional context.
Yeah, I'd like to add some just super quick additional context. So there are, in Polkadot, we're going to be able to have access to all of the bridge parachains in addition to projects that are building parachains onto Polkadot, right? So there's bridge parachaining happening right now for a bunch of different projects, and we'll have accessibility through bridge parachains to other chains, right? To cross chains, so Ethereum, Bitcoin, et cetera, we'll have access to these things in the future.
Okay. Last question for you. How will you scale all this data on a single platform?
So one of the great strengths about building on Polkadot is that the scalability issue is really like, to some extent, we feel pretty well solved. And we expect that our ability to so in Polkadot, you've got this shared relay chain, right? And each time so the sharding, as I understand it, listen, I'm not like the biggest expert in the world, and I'll be the first to admit there's much I still need to learn. But as I understand it, like the great analogy for me is like, we don't have to, like, if you're building houses, like we don't have to lay the foundation every single time, right? The foundation is already laid in a sense by the shared relay chains sharing the security. And every time a parachain comes onto it, your scalability actually increases rather than decreases by having more weight, if you will, on chain. So scalability is really something that is going to be a great strength of us building on Polkadot. And again, just harkening back to my talk about why we chose it, we felt that the level of throughput necessary for a data infrastructure and data marketplace was only possible through, in fact, Polkadot in a cost-effective manner. Their recent estimates for throughput on Polkadot is 100,000 TPS when they're fully formed and in flight. So we expect to be able to piggyback off of that innovation.
Yeah, let's revisit Polkadot real quick, because I think that's going to be a big technology. We'll talk about it during the panel discussion. Let's move over to Royale. You ready, Gio, for the tough ones?
I was born ready, buddy. Born ready.
Born ready? Yeah, straight out the womb. How are you planning to make your product regulatory compliant?
Yeah, quite simple. We're only going to work with products that are already licensed. So that you need to be one of the standard prerequisites and part of our policies and procedures. You need to be a licensed product to work with us. That's to start with. Any other regulation that we need to adhere to, we'll always adhere to, whatever jurisdictions we work in. Pretty simple. It's not complicated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In terms of go ahead.
I think the big misconception that we have to clear up is that we're not providing games ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're just providing the DeFi liquidity pools to fund iGaming solutions. And the reason for that is because right now there's a huge, basically all the huge companies in the industry dominate the iGaming industry, and there's no way that new companies can really enter. So we're here as a solution to help them enter, and we use DeFi to do that.
Is there any there would have to be regulatory compliance in terms of funding gambling operations, whether it be through banking regulations or whether it be through something else. What is your scope and maybe the guidance that you're getting in terms of regulatory compliance for things such as this?
For sure. So our legal team, whatever, like we said, whatever regulation we need to adhere to, whether it's becoming a credit facility or whether it's whatever it may be, we will adhere to. We're already in discussions with regulators in certain jurisdictions with regards to banking in those jurisdictions, in order for us to be able to do what we do completely compliant legally and adhere to whatever needs to be adhered to.
Are you guys going to have a presence in the UK? They seem to be pretty pro gambling.
Start with no.
No. Okay.
Just a very quick one. It's where we've got a presence and where the iGaming companies have got presences will be two different things.
Understood.
People mustn't confuse us with the iGaming companies.
You got it.
So just a question here then from me. What I understand from that then is you're actually trying to create a gateway for traditional gaming companies right now that don't fully understand the crypto or DeFi space, for you to help them basically cross that barrier of entry, as opposed to you creating a load of games yourselves. Is that correct?
What we're going to do is we're going to enable the new generation of iGaming entrepreneurs to take on the incumbents. One of the big stumbling blocks that entrepreneurs have is that the incumbents are very cash flow positive, and they do not have the liquidity to take them on by offering appropriate prices, whether they're big or more frequent or better margins. So that's the gap, and it's a massively growing gap, one of the biggest growing sections of the iGaming market at the moment, and one that we're well positioned to leverage.
Gotcha.
Great. Can you talk about the functionality of your utility token?
Okay, that's my department. So the Royale token is a coordinating mechanism between the two parties in the ecosystem, those being A, the liquidity providers, and B, the iGaming entrepreneurs, potentially. So that's basically all it is. So you contribute your liquidity to the pool, and while the liquidity is not being used, it's being optimized. The V1 will have an optimization through Curve. So basically, you'll be contributing your liquidity, and if it's not being used, you can pick whatever strategy in Curve. It'll automatically select it so that you're getting 20-30% APY there. And then as the governance council will be vetting constantly iGaming investment opportunities, and as they come in, they will be those iGaming opportunities will be funded from the liquidity pool, and then those returns will, after they come back in, will be funneled back through the back into the liquidity pool and also through the staking lots. So without going too deep into the weeds there, basically the token itself, I got my MetaMask like going crazy over here, I'm sorry. The token is there to encourage liquidity and also to provide governance over the potential iGaming opportunities, as well as to manage the staking lots. So those are the three main functions of the token.
Cool. I think you had mentioned, is there like a staking farming aspect? So I wanted to ask that.
There's a lot of different ways to farm. So the first one would be just putting in stable coins, so USDC, DAI, USDT into the liquidity pool. And when you do that, you'll have access to the optimized curve strategies that we're just talking about, as well as the iGaming opportunities that we're talking about. And while you do that, you'll be earning a token, and we're going to separate it out. So initially it'll be mRoya, like similar to how Hedgic operates. You don't mine Hedgic directly, you mine our Hedgic, which then turns into Hedgic later. So that's one way to farm, by contributing stablecoins. The second way to farm is to contribute to the Royale reserve. So you just have Roya tokens going into the Royale reserve, which is like a backup insurance in case there are any liquidity events in the liquidity pool. We'll have insurance provider. We already in the final stages of a deal with them. So it'll be the backup. And then the third way to do liquidity mining or farming, as you say, is to amass stakes. So we'll have three different types of staking lots: queens, kings, and a royal flush. And basically just have to stack enough Roya to get one of those tokens. So basically what you would do at 7,200 Roya tokens to get a queen lot, for example, you stake that into the staking contract, and you would receive a Q Roya token, which represents your interest as a staking lot. And then that entitles you to flows from the iGaming opportunities, as well as the stability that come back. So,
Cool.
So that's all the three different ways that you can farm in the Royale ecosystem.
And then the last question is, could you maybe give some examples of what type of games will be on the Royale platform or ecosystem? Better way to put it.
Well, we can't predict at this point, but we will be supporting a portfolio of iGaming companies, which will cover the total gamut of gaming, as long as it fits within our strategy of provably fair and transparent gaming. It could be typical casino games. It could be linked to esports, sports betting, you name it. We're not going to restrict ourselves to a genre, but what we are going to restrict ourselves to is provably fair and transparency and blockchain based companies.
And online, so iGaming, not in the machine world. So some people call themselves online gaming, but it's really like the spinners in the casino, right? It's not actually online, but we're not
For
that.
sure. And the games predominantly in iGaming, anything kind of neat, provably fair based, they need to have been certified with a provably fair RNG.
Gotcha.
Just a question here from me, Matt, if I may, just following on from that. So typically, if you look at projects, the founders, or at least the C-suite team, you typically develop your project in a way that kind of fits either your passion or your experience. I'm just wondering, on an emotional level, is there a particular kind of background with any of you in terms of this sort of iGaming? Do you have any particular kind of sectors or verticals that you kind of are most affiliate with? I'm just kind of interested, because I know you're going to be open and you're not going to knock anything back, but I'm sure notionally there would be things in your mind from experiences or from market research or your experience, past lives that might come into play here. I'm just interested.
So I've been in the iGaming industry for I think it's about 25-30 years now, and worked in a number of companies across a number of jurisdictions, from Europe to Latin America to the US to Asia. I've seen a lot. I've seen the slowness of the gaming industry. I've seen the emerging space coming out. So what I'm absolutely seeing, which is exciting to me, is that the millennials and the Gen Zs have been totally overlooked and misunderstood by the incumbents. The way they see them is millennials are just going to become next decade 70-year-olds, and we don't have to change. They'll come through us. We don't have to go to them. I don't believe in that. I believe that there's a huge community of gamers out there that we can tap into. Early companies that are now getting involved with provably fair gaming and then looking at the blockchain space for their underlying platforms are experiencing massive growth, and they haven't even begun to really chip away at what's possible.
Gotcha. So you remember the good old days of ZX Spectrums and Commodores and the Jet Set Willies of this world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that someone once came to me. There's a quick anecdote, and he said, "Why don't you help me set up the first online gaming company in the world?" And those were the days when you chose between a 24.4 and a 48.8K dial-up modem.
Yeah, that's my days.
At that time, I told them that I was going off to join Accenture, which was the
yeah, I was super excited when the 48K came out, and it only took 12 minutes to load my game on my cassette. I was that changed my world. Okay, cool. Thanks for the memory back there.
Just some more experience from the gaming side myself. We provided. I've worked within a regulated company in the UK that provided and still provides services, payment services for gaming companies, iGaming companies. So this is going to be very helpful when we start integrating traditional payment systems into the ecosystem.
No, that's great. To be honest, I'm not that old yet, but I feel it every day. So it's actually quite refreshing to see a more mature group here on a project, to have actually got some historical experience as well. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of young guys, my son himself, who is a massive gamer. He stopped playing with me at around 7, 8 because I was messing up his stats. So that kind of didn't really pay out. But it's good to see that you guys have got some real world experience. So yeah, there you go, guys.
I think something really important that we could just finish that conversation with is, I think it's understanding what enables quality, what enables good product, what enables a solid team, what enables everything that's required in order for a gaming product to be successful. I think we have that in the team, and that's why we believe we can choose products that have, you know, the highest chance of success.
Yeah, maybe we can expand on that topic a little bit and kind of open it up, maybe to some of the other guys. I know Dylan and Mark are still with us, and whoever else is still tuning in. You know, I had a call with the project the other day. I'm not going to name who it is, but they basically came on, and then they're post sale now. They were successful, and they said, you know, our price is decreasing, and you know, what are we going to do to increase the price? And as an advisor, as a consultant, I had to come in and say, nothing. You shouldn't care about price after you've delivered maybe an initial result or whatever. It's going to come down to the fact that you need to build now, and that'll, like, building TVL, liquidity, communication with your community, and building that community. That's going to translate into price once it finds a supportive floor somewhere where people will find value in coming in. But that can't happen until you build. So all you can really do is focus on your product and communicate with your community to make sure you have your loyal supporters stick with you, because those people will come in and out, and I understand that these projects, all they hear is their community in their chat going, well, one price, one exchange, one whatever, because they're financially vested. I think we have a kind of a span of projects here, some early. Mark, obviously your project is more mature. You guys have been dealing with that. Why don't you tell me about, from your perspective, the life cycle of a startup in the crypto space, and how it goes from the pre-sale stage and what you guys have monitored to the post-sale stage, and how you guys have been able to get a handle on things such as this. Maybe we'll start with Mark.
Yeah, I think I think it really depends on the project. You know, I think a lot of the anonymous Uniswap darling projects who are just you know, looking for that quick flip will definitely be more you know, flaky in their decisions, and will quickly go to saying, you know, we're going to do this burn, or we're going to do this open market buy, or we're going to change our mechanics, or we're going to change the contract. And a lot of times you'll see that actually ruin the project, because the change in the contract, you know, isn't vetted, and they do it quickly to try to help boost price, and they're just chasing the next high. But for a more established project with a non-anonymous team, which we are, and threaded out into the ecosystem, and a lot of partnerships, and a lot of people betting on us and showing that they believe in us, you can't really you can't play that game. And you know, the price is just a function of the product itself, and you need to make sure that the product is working and is high quality, and is dependable. And you know, we are very different from Ampleforth, but in looking at their example, they definitely give us a lot of corollaries that we can use to think through our own life cycle and where we're at. And really, you know, it took them 8 to 10 months to really have the market understand what the structure of the product was, and what they were shooting for, and what Ample is at the base, and what rebasing is. And so for us, we see that as a great example of just consistency, and just being there and being dependable, making sure the product's working, continuing to work on partnerships, and building out marketing, and spreading the word, and then hitting that critical mass, and then seeing the actual market adoption happen. Because for it to function, we need to hit critical mass and need to see that larger adoption. But to do that, we need to stay consistent and not be swayed by short-term swings or short-term sentiment, or, you know, a very vocal minority who just wants to see that quick 2x, 3x, 5x, and then leave. You know, that's not what we're here to build. I think that's the real difference in teams and mindsets. And you should look for the teams that have that different mindset. If you look at someone, you know, if you look at the best builders in our space, none of them care about price, and none of them are talking about price. You know, Vitalik isn't going to get up there and tell you what the ETH price should be, or how they're working on the ETH price going up. that's all, that's all up to the market to decide and all out there. And we just need to build the best product in the best conditions we can. And we're really lucky in that we have a release product. It is now working. It will continuously push an open market price of Bitcoin dominance and get back to Bitcoin dominance constantly. And it's a proven and open contract that's out there. We're continuing to improve the technology behind it. We got a better oracle through Chainlink that produces an even better data feed and a more reliable one. The product is there, the product works. And so we're lucky in that sense. We don't have to continue building out more of the actual base product. The base product is structured and working. And so that's also a specific to our project and a lucky part of our project that we have this asset that is out there and functioning as designed and dependably. And so now it's just about consistency and dependability, which I think is highly lacking in this space, especially in the last 6 months with the hype cycle around DeFi and a lot of the rug pulls and the quick launches of projects. Seeing non-anonymous teams and seeing partnerships and seeing some real work being done is exciting. And I think the next stage that we're now seeing, we see a lot more projects launching that are non-anonymous and open and building real things, which is great and where the space needs to go.
That's great. Thanks, Mark. So I just have a kind of just something to say. So for anyone that's kind of on the feed watching in, we've had some pitches here today. TDeFi are kind of running this 4-day program where we're bringing on projects that have developed outside of the TDeFi accelerator program because we feel that they bring value and a lot of words of wisdom, hence an example of this call. But so just for those people, there's some pitches here, some of the projects that pitched earlier, they're looking for the opportunity to be accelerated. So there were some questions around that. They're not projects that we're affiliated with at this point in time. So just to let you guys know that. One thing following on from that, guys, we've got a pretty mature panel here in terms of people that have probably got real world experience. I'm interested in people's opinions in terms of how they feel, the traditional, if you like entrepreneurial space is different to the cryptocurrency space. I mean, we all know that, this is a bubble we're in. It's a very small niche. And, everything, it's like an echo chamber. So you can't really hide from this stuff. We've got Telegram channels, in the traditional space, you don't have people constantly berating you if you haven't provided any information for 3 minutes. So I'm kind of interested on that sense, from your experience, how do you feel? Yeah, let's look at the positives and negatives of that. We've got about 10 more minutes before I think we're going to end the feed, but I'd be interested in getting everyone's opinion on that. Maybe we'll stick with you, Mark, since you're already on.
Yeah. I think, the space definitely is begging for people who have more of the traditional experience. Me, myself, I'm a manager in my day job and, have multiple masters and have been, leading for years. And a lot of my organizational structure and what I do every day around finances and HR and handling relationships is definitely used in crypto. But at the same time, it's all a blessing and a curse, right? Like I went from a fan to a founder in a couple months of working through building relationships and partnerships and getting the funding to launch the project. And you can't do that in the traditional space. I think if you were lucky enough to be in Silicon Valley in the 90s, maybe it existed where you just walk into the room with the PowerPoint and then you have a couple $1 million and start a company. But it's not that case right now. And so that's the blessing. But then the curse is because it's so easy to do that. That means that you're much more open and you're much more connected directly to those people. And, the people who are in this space, as I'm sure Silicon Valley was in the 90s, are people who are looking for a quick flip and a quick 10X, and then they want to go on to the next 10X. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is what happens at the edge of innovation. When you are new, it's a high risk capital space, and high risk capital means there needs to be high rewards. And so it's just what happens at the edge of innovation. And so it's to be expected. And you just have to roll with the punches, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to have the right mindset and understand what you're getting into. And, you see founders either put up walls and block that all out, or get out of the game. There's been a couple who've actually just tapped out and just said, I can't handle this constant berating and constant connection. And so that's really where we're at, but it's to be expected, and because of what we're doing and building brand new things and being on that edge of innovation. So I'm embracing of it and understanding of it personally. Yeah.
Good stuff. Did you have
Yeah,
something
and building.
to say, Diane?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna build off that, because that definitely resonated with me to some extent, because I feel like you kind of have you kind of like on a fence as a founder, where you want to take the viewpoint and be empathetic of your community, but at the same time you can't be driven. You can't let them take the driver's seat, right? And I think that you know, that's a great strength, that we're able to be as close to often, you know, and really. I've actually taken the viewpoint, and I've taken the standpoint that I want to be hopefully we get really big, but I want to be in constant contact with my community. Certainly on Telegram, I do video updates like every 2-3 days, and you know, for me, it's very important. But at the same time, I think it's definitely a balance not to be driven too much by I guess by some of the sentiment of the community that happens sometimes, because as a founder or CEO, like your job, in my opinion, is to try to push the project in places that, you know, people don't expect, or are outside of the comfort zone of even your own team, right, or yourself. So they may not see that sort of long-term vision. They may not have an understanding. You know, for example, the narrative surrounding our project is securely based in Oracle. It's something that we can do easily, but we're sort of moving far beyond that. And yeah, I think everything Mark said is so on point. I just want to affirm that. That's been my experience as well, because I've been in a quote unquote traditional startup environment too. And it's a really weird thing. Like, as I've said in pitch meetings with some of our investors in the early days for Kylin, I was like, you know, usually I'm earnestly asking and groveling maybe for some money in a normal startup. But in this crypto world, it's almost like, and especially recently, it was almost like, shut up, take my money. And that was a very weird experience to have.
It's definitely kind of highlights the kind of dips and troughs that we don't really feel in the traditional market. You know, I come from a very traditional background, run lots of different companies and invest in lots of different companies, and you know, you don't have that emotional kind of charged energy outside of this industry, where, you know, people actually, I think anybody here, and I'd be interested in people's thoughts on this too, they actually look forward to bear markets, because it gives them a chance to build and not be harassed, you know. But at the same time, when the markets are like pumping, you kind of have to take the opportunity to maximize it. And it's funny you mentioned that before we move on to other guys. One of the things I think now reminding me that attracted to yourself was the fact that I noticed you were doing these personal videos on the announcement channel, and I have to that kind of struck me as pretty unusual, not in a bad way, but it's rare that people put themselves out there. I mean, I remember the Charlie Lee days of when he was very, very vocal and putting stuff out, and you know, he kind of was the, you know, the godfather of selling the top, and he came out and said, look, I'm selling, and everyone remembers that, and he's been pretty quiet since. So
I have a funny story about Charlie Lee. I always used to tell people that Charlie Lee was the first person in and the last person out of an event, because you would go to a crypto event and he would literally be one of the first few people standing on the floor talking to people, and he would slowly make his way around the room, introducing and having personal time with every single person there, to the point that when you went to go leave, you know how like when you're leaving, people are hanging outside, he's still outside speaking to people while you're leaving. He was the most personal guy that I think I've ever met in the crypto space. Unwarranted, obviously, the FUD that he received when he sold. But I think it's a testament to understand that, you know, as founders and as project managers and etc., you know, there's a difference between evangelizing the vision and asking people to hold. And this goes back to the conversation where we talked about whether or not, you know, we should be concerned about price post sale, etc. The thing is that people are purchasing a utility token, but at the end of the day, it has a price associated with it. And back in 2017, there was this really bad trend going on where people were like, well, you don't believe in the vision if you sell. Like, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. And I'm glad that we've come such a far way over 3 to 4 years to make this. I mean, there's still a lot of things wrong with the space, but to make this space healthier, and the fact that we can have these honest conversations and say, hey, you know, you shouldn't hold, if you see some technicals that you should sell or whatever, that's your choice. Now, most people will be better off spot holding anyway, long term. But the problem is about 90+% of these startups will fail. So that doesn't apply across that same breadth. So maybe some of you guys can step in here to kind of elaborate and build off of that point of the differences between utility and price. And I know some of you guys probably have legal disclaimers to say before you talk, but yeah, I think it's an important concept to discuss. So who wants to jump in before? I know we have to end. This will be whoever speaks will be the last person to speak, I think, because we have to wrap. We have 5 minutes.
Let me talk about this real quick, because I was involved in some of those companies in the 17 run, and those guys are raising $30 million and doing nothing. That's the difference right now so far. You know, Royale's raising 1.5, PokerStarter raised 875K. You know, Mantra, that was like 6 million. I don't know, those are the ones that I was involved with.
Rio raised 20 million, but to be fair, people will raise what they can raise within the market. They're just being advised by advisors who are going to tell them how much they can realistically raise. I think I've had conversations with maybe all of you on this call about, in some regard to something like that. The market will dictate what the market wants, and people will always want more money for runway. But I'll let you continue.
But my point is that, you know, people are raising money and actually building product with, you know, $2-3 million, and that's normal, and great, and awesome. And before, you know, you had those $30 million guys being like, yeah, don't talk to me. I'm a big fancy CEO, and I'm not going to join the Telegram chat because I'm too busy, like, hobnobbing at such and such event and whatever. And like, we don't have that yet, at least from what I see. Maybe I'm too busy building stuff with all my projects, but I think it's really great that so far we haven't seen that. I think you're right. We're gonna see those people yet, and I think at that point, that's
we have to see it. We have to see it, unfortunately. We have to see it, unfortunately, because you know, look back at 2016, look back at 2017. Though there were some grandiose raises, there was a lot more realistic perspective early 2017. Probably after things blew up in July, post Bitcoin fork. I think that was, can't remember if that was Segwit or Bitcoin Cash. But right after that, Binance came out. There was more liquidity with KuCoin and Binance launching their exchanges. Bittrex was stepping back from the market. That's right around when you started seeing these massive valuations. And I mean, you can make arguments to say, well, there weren't as many developers back then. You know, you had to pay for certain costs. Everything was absurd. The thing is, right, you're looking at your budget and you're saying, okay, well, how much am I going to have to send out to marketing? How much am I going to have to send out to development? How much am I going to send out to all these things? As the bull market starts to take off, marketing goes up, development costs go up, everything starts skyrocketing. Yeah. So there's an in-between, right? Number one is that you're raising enough money to give yourself ceiling for where the market can head, right? So if the market can head big, then you're always going to take more money as a company. And those are the conversations that are happening behind closed doors, whether it's realistic or not. I do agree with your sentiment where we're saying, hey, you know, it's nice to actually see that we can have lean finance, but also understand a lot of these companies that are doing lean finance, they're switching the model. They're raising small to be able to have leeway on the upside, right? But at the same time, they're having secondary OTC sales, or they're having equity sales that are later because they're building tangible products, as you had understood. So they still need more. They still need more money, but by raising less based on market conditions, they're just taking on more risk to be able to facilitate that. So it's a very nuanced conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time. We're being told from our production team that we're at the end of it. But I do want to thank everyone for coming out. We will be back in an hour with Plodex for session 2.